shedding
all sorts of debris. Why do they always fall out?
now. That's probably a little bit pointed that way.
Just as I was hoping.
Is it doing its thing?
Oh, on Oddball, those Q-tips reminded me. Oberman was talking about that a kid who was now about 8 or 9 years old had been partially deaf. And they had been wondering about this stuff for a long time and kind of had him checked a little bit. And then one day, about 5 years after he'd first had this deafness, a big cotton piece from a Q-tip fell out of his ear.
That would explain it.
One of the doctors, you know, that had been checking him had gone in with a swab and not taken out the cotton.
Yeah. So, George, tell me, the bird just down there by the one with the little red on the throat and then the black line?
Varied thrush.
Okay, that's a varied thrush. And then that larger one in front of the...
Rufous-sided towhee.
That's a towhee. Okay, and the chickadees I know. The rest of them are chickadees, the little ones.
No, the little ones there are Oregon juncos.
Oh, really? The little black ones? Little black
With the
hood?
black head. The little executioner birds. They have the hood of the executioner.
Okay, and then with the black tail that's up like that,
That's a towhee.
that's a towhee.
There's an eastern and a western strain of towhees. The eastern ones are mostly brown tan, and here they are quite dark across the back and have quite a number of spots on the wings. Sometimes referred to as a spotted towhee.
Okay, so we have varied thrush.
Varied thrush, flickers, doves, towhees, juncos, fox sparrows, song sparrows.
Now, is that a chickadee there?
Yeah. There are blackcap and chestnut-backed chickadees, and then there are nuthatches. Occasionally you see brown creepers that are a little bird with a fairly long curved beak, and they go up the trunk, and when they get up into the branches they plunge down to the base of the next tree and work their way up. The nuthatch works its way down.
So right here, though, what we're seeing, we saw the varied thrush. The little ones are the Oregon junco.
Yeah,
And then the other one was a towhee,
yes,
rufous-sided.
yeah,
Rufous-sided.
yes. They have a band. The breast is somewhat grayish, lightish in the middle, but on the sides you can see that there is a reddish tan side to it.
The big one by the rock there,
Yeah,
that's a
it's a
rufous-sided towhee. And then there are other towhees?
towhee. Not here.
Okay.
The eastern,
So you could just say towhee. And that,
Yeah.
but the full name is Rufus-sided.
Yeah. But they're, you know, they're constantly shifting. It's like with the mushroom folks. You know, you can take a book and 5 years or 10 years later, the description has changed and they're in a different genus,
Wow.
you know, because they've found some other little kinds of things. And the same is true, not as rapidly shifting, but is pretty much true of bird books too, as they learn more about them.
Well, I suppose we should.
Oh, and there are hairy and downy woodpeckers that come in. They go up on the feeder.
Harry Wood.
One year about, oh hell, it must have been in the early or mid-80s when we had a severe winter. There was a bird showed up and I couldn't identify it. And I started looking at various things and the pictures didn't jive with what I was seeing, which of course was early winter. And they were showing mostly illustrations during the breeding plumage, because that's when they're the, you know, the brightest and things. And it turns out that it was a shut. No, I don't think it's in the book. But it was a snow bunting of some kind that is white and black and kind of gray. And only in severe winters do we get them. You know, that,
Down from the Arctic.
yeah, they're an Arctic bird,
Wow.
basically. It was like one time before I came up here, I'd spent about a week traipsing around looking at land along the coast and southern Washington and this. And I came out one morning and walked along the beach and came to where there was a stream that came out, and then there was a little alluvial fan out there where the stream came into the salt water. And here were probably 100 gulls sitting out there on this alluvial flat, because the water was such that it was just kind of washing across it, so it was a feeding place, and also then where it came up a little bit, it was just kind of a resting place. And I was looking at them with my glasses. And here amongst all these gulls was this one with a red bill and red feet. And it again is something that's a pelagic, really kind of bird, but it had gotten blown in or something, you know.
Wow.
And there it was amongst all these with its red feet and red bill.
Yeah, the doves are in.
Yes, it's interesting to watch them. There are singles that come in and occasionally doubles that I'm fairly sure must be the part of the group that is raising their babes here, because they're quite a bit tamer than the big group that comes in. There's a couple more over by the
Yeah.
water thing.
How often do you get predator predator birds, hawks and stuff?
It varies. There's a red-tailed hawk family that lives somewhere in the area. And then there are little accipiters, the member of the goshawk family, you know,
Merlins and
the little sharp shin
sharp shin.
that comes in. One time, when we'd had a snow a couple of years ago, not this year, but last year, I had made a loop, shoveled out a loop. We'd gotten about 4 or 5 inches of snow. And so I was feeding them in this cleared loop, and as well as underneath here. And they were sitting there, a whole bunch of them, and this little sharp shin came in and grabbed one. And it sat there for probably 2-3 minutes at least, and you could just see him working his talons into this dove that he'd grabbed. And after it quit struggling, it picked it up and flew off with it. Well, the dove is almost as big as the sharp shin,
Yeah.
but it
Bigger.
managed to get it off. And I didn't see this happen, but some other people were here. And the doves were feeding, and it came through, and they all flushed and took off this direction. And about over by the end of the sand pile, it caught one, knocked it out of the air, it dropped, and then it went down and grabbed it. I think I told you this. One year I was here, and this was 4 or 5 years ago. The hawk came in from the barn direction and came through here, and one of the juncos flew into the window and landed over there by the seed pile. And that was when I had that pretty big cascara tree out here. Well, the little bird hit the window hard, and it had cruised off up into the hawk had cruised off up into the cascara tree and sitting up there. Well, when little birds hit the window, I generally go out and check them. If they're bleeding from the nares or the mouth or any place, they're pretty well dead. But if they're not bleeding, they frequently recover. And I brought a lot of them in and just held them for a while and then set them up on a branch or something after they recovered a little bit. Well, pretend that the toe of your shoe is the bird. I'm like this, reaching down to get it. The hawk came out of the tree, grabbed the bird, 12, 18 inches from my hand, and dropped over there, got a better hold, and flew off with it.
So nobody's going to take his lunch from him.
Yeah, so that's my bird, man, But I was just really surprised that here this hawk came in within 18 inches of me and grabbed the bird. As I'm reaching down, pow, it was gone.
I tell you, up where I'm at on the rocks, I have fairly frequent experiences, especially with bald eagles, to where I've had bald eagles within real close range, and they are surprisingly curious, and they're looking at you, and they're trying to figure out, what the hell you doing, that kind of stuff. It's a very interesting thing. Raptors especially are very interesting creatures.
Yeah.
In Anacortes, there's a pretty big starling population. And I like to watch them because the flock moves, you know, and they always roost in the afternoon in these big poplar trees, and oftentimes I'm eating lunch and so I can see them. And walking around the dogs down in the downtown, you know, old neighborhood there. And I've seen a sharp-shinned or a small hawk, you know, take one right out of the air, you know, 200 feet up. They're wheeling around, and you see this slightly larger bird come zipping in, grab it, and then flutter down with one in his, you know, wings. Well, this is several years ago. I was delivering firewood to Patty, which is right near her house, is just up from the building. And I'm throwing the wood out, you know, the truck, or stacking it.